just talk about that a little bit, is keeping the eye on the ball about the big picture, about working with the board with varying levels of capacity, as Jahna sort of outlined. What's the vision? The long-term game, where do we want the community to be and improved outcomes, not tomorrow and not next year, but in 30 years and 50 years. And so, you know, in many ways these agreements have come about. Different corporations have got different amounts of money. This has muddied the waters extremely. So there's very much, as you would understand, and it's exactly the same in developing countries. When suddenly there's money around, it's about what do I get tomorrow? Where is my individual benefit now? And so it's balancing the immediate needs with the long-term journey. And so if we know where we're going, and this is the journey I'm hoping to support the board around, is having a clear understanding on the end game and what are the pieces that need to be put into place along the way. And not plucked out of the air, but led by the evidence. There is so much evidence out there, bringing it to the table in a respectful way, and of course consulting, because there's certainly plenty of vision within the community and in terms of strategy and so forth. So, but it's facilitating that process. So the challenge for me is the immediate versus the long game.
Why?
My sentiments are the same. It's all about the big picture and where we want to get to. The most challenging thing for me, and I spend a lot of time doing that, is keeping people in the tent. So that's all about relationships, and Greg mentioned that. Relationships are the most important thing. And you have to be able to do that in a way you're not going to lose people. I mean, that sounds pretty self-evident, but actually doing it is really challenging. But what I see with our community is a lot of our community are focused. We have a very small minority who really do oppose the work we do, and they oppose it strongly, but that's fine. We've always had a policy from when Glenn Kelly was there, is that our door always remains open, and we're open to conversations with everybody who are going to be beneficiaries of the Indigenous land use agreements. So for me, I guess that's the greatest challenge for me. And when I say I can't be everything for everyone, that's the most truthful thing I can say, because everybody wants a different outcome, and a lot of it's driven by what they want as far as their family goes, or what they want individually. And to be able to, you've got to be able to hold a line on that, and that's one of the greatest challenges for me, is to hold a strong line on everything we do is about Noongars as a whole, and that's probably the most important thing.
I guess personally it's wearing many hats is my biggest challenge. It's not just this role, but I do sit on some other boards, and then I'm involved with my kids' sports, and I can't stop putting my hand up to volunteer to speak at things. So it's finding time for me and my family, because they are my greatest support, my immediate family, but also finding time for my children before they grow old and they're moved out. So that's the personal one. I guess the biggest challenge for the corporation is, one, with a board of 12 traditional owners, again based on representation, not so much skill set. Sometimes we are lacking certain skill sets that you'd like to see on a board. Also their access to our directors. Some of them live in extremely remote communities that don't have phones and internet, so trying to circulate board papers or do a circular resolution virtually is bound to fail every time. I've already said the perceived conflict of interest. I echo what you said earlier, Wayne, about an exit strategy. Sometimes CEOs can stay too long and get too comfortable. I like to see that new CEOs have a bit of a 3 to 5 year turnover to bring in innovation and fresh ideas to a business. The last one, I think that the biggest challenge is the pressure on corporations to pay for services that government are responsible for, because governments see the money that corporations have. That's not why our trusts have been established. You know, as was already stated, we've got issues where, Goomera itself predates native title. We are not in any way bound by native title. It's a commercial land use agreement with Rio Tinto. But then you've got the pressures of when native title is given determination to certain groups, then the implications on how we create partnerships or relationships with them. Again, a lot of it is to leverage funds from one another to support what government should be doing in communities. In particular, dialysis within the Ashburton, there's not a dialysis centre. So the pressure is on us now to establish something to ensure that there's too many of our actually young people now getting diabetes. They shouldn't have to move from their spiritual homelands to Perth to get treatment. When you can see a feasibility report shows you that there's a need there, then why aren't the government willing to partner with us? So those funding pressures.
I think that's a really critical point. A lot of the community that I worked for would come to the corporation because that was a safe place for them to receive some form of support. They wouldn't go over the road to the government service provider because they didn't feel understood. And they were also, at times, so why are you here? You should be going to your corporation or your trust to get funds for that. So there was that ongoing, discrimination effectively in trying to juggle that. And Greg and Wayne, I can really empathise with the neediness of some of our community. They were living subsistently. It was actually, there was great pressure on the corporation to apply the Band-Aid, and sometimes at the cost of doing that long-term upstream treating the cause rather than the symptom. Again, all things that you have to juggle with the pressure of a community member being on your doorstep in a state where they desperately needed help.